Okay, today's lesson is lesson 79. This is a geometry view, 30, 60, 90 triangles and 45, 45, 90 triangles. It will also be day one next year in pre-cal. So, very important lesson. We are going to begin basically doing a little bit of a proof. We're going to start with the 30, 60, 90 triangles, but I'm going to actually begin with an equilateral triangle. Equilateral triangle, all the sides are the same length, all the angles are the same length, and more specifically, all those angles have to be 60 degrees. Since we know all the angles in a triangle add up to be 180, and there's three that are all the same. So that's 60-degree angle, that's a 60-degree angle, that's a 60-degree angle. And all the sides are the same. Now, they could be whatever, but because I know where I'm going, we're going to say that all the sides are of length 2. And again, I'm doing a little proof here. If I drop a perpendicular bisector here, it's going to be perpendicular, make a right angle. It also will cut this base in half so that now that side is 1 and this side is 1. Now, I'm going to redraw this just looking at the right half of this. So looking at that right half, there's my right angle, there's the 60 degrees. Now the 60 degrees up here at the top got cut in half. It's now 30. That 2 is still there. This is only 1/2 of that base, so it's only 1. I need to find this height. How could I figure that out? Right triangle, no two sides, looking for the third side, Pythagorean theorem. So we've got a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Which one has to be the c? The hypotenuse. So we get 2 squared there. A and b doesn't matter. They're both legs. So we've got 1 squared plus b squared. So 1 plus b squared equals 4. Subtract the 1. B squared is 3. Take the square root of both sides. And actually, mathematically, we should be getting plus or minus the square root of 3. But it's the length of a side. It's got to be positive. So b is the square root of 3. So put that up there as with my triangle. And that would be our standard 30, 60, 90 triangle. That is what I want you to memorize. So right here, your standard 30, 60, 90 triangle. Remember, okay, if we take them in order here, 30, 60, 90, smallest to largest, which of these is the smallest side? 1. What's the longest side? The 2. Square root of 3, square root of 3 is approximately 1.7. It's going to be in the middle. So opposite the smallest angle is the smallest side. Opposite the largest angle, largest side, etc. It goes in order. So 30, 60, 90, 1 square root of 3, 2. So opposite your 30-degree angle over here, that's the 1. Opposite the 60-degree angle is the square root of 3. Opposite the 90-degree angle is the 2. And again, you need to have this memorized. Now, you may have done it this way last year in geometry. You might have memorized it x squared to 3, and 2x. Okay, it's the same thing. My numbers are with x being 1. And again, it doesn't really matter, but for where I'm going with this for pre-cal, I don't want the x's involved. out, we're going to be doing just the 1 square root of 3 and 2. All right, now with that in mind, let's solve some problems. So number 1, let's find x and y. So looking at this problem, you should immediately see it is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. And we can do this 2 different ways. I don't know which way you were taught last year in geometry, but one method is called scale factors. Another method is by proportions. In my opinion, the scale factors is the quickest and the easiest. If I were doing this problem on my own, I do scale factors. But as a teacher, I have learned that not everybody understands the method of scale factors. Only about maybe half of you would get the problem right if I do scale factors. But everybody can do proportions. So I am going to teach this lesson doing proportions. If you remember scale factors and you prefer scale factors, do it. Perfectly fine. But I'm going to teach it as proportions, which means we have similar triangles. So given question number 1 here, recognize it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. We're going to redraw this standard 30, 60, 90 triangle right beside it, looking just the same way. So in other words, I've got the 30-degree angle at the top, I got the right angle in the bottom right, and the 60-degree angle in the bottom left. And then correctly label the standard 30, 60, 90 triangle. So opposite the 30 is 1, opposite the 60 is the square root of 3, opposite the 90, or the hypotenuse, is 2. And now we're going to set up proportions. When you do your proportions, you have to use your matching pairs. So I've got hypotenuse and hypotenuse. So we're going to use 5:2 as. And now it's just whichever variable you want to solve for. So if I'm doing right side to right side, so 5:2 as x is to the square root of 3. And then once you have your proportion set up, cross multiply. So 2x, cross multiplying is what I'm doing. So we do this. So 2x equals 5 square roots of 3. Solve for x. So divide both sides by 2. X is 5 square roots of 3 divided by 2. Now what about y? Basically, I'm going to do the same thing. I still use the given information, which was the 5/2 for the hypotenuse, equals. And now I've got the bottom to the bottom. So y is to 1. And once again, once you have your proportion set up, cross multiply. But sometimes there are shortcuts. Looking at this right here, what is y over 1? It's just y. There's no need to cross multiply in this case. It's already solved. Y equals 5/2. And that's your answer to that problem. And it really is that simple as long as you have your standard 30, 60, 90 triangle memorized. Number 2, another question, find A and B. Now, it looks weird, it's all turned cockeyed, but it's still a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So, just as we did before, draw your standard 30, 60, 90 triangle, but you want to draw it to look exactly like the one that was given. So now my right angle is at the top, 60 degrees is at the bottom left, 30 degrees is at the bottom right. But you still go opposite the 30-degree angle is the 1. Opposite the 60-degree angle, square root of 3. Opposite the 90-degree angle is 2. 30, 60, 90, it's always going to be 1 square root of 3, 2. And now, once again, just set up your proportions. Give me a little room. Come on. Here we go. Too much. All right. So the matching pair we know this time is the 3 square roots of 3, which matches to the square root of 3. Right side matches to the right side. So 3 square roots of 3 is to the square root of 3 as, and now you can do whichever variable you want. If I'm doing A is the top left. It's going to go to the top left. So A is to 1. And again, once you set up your proportion, cross multiply. That will always work. If you happen to notice some shortcuts, again, there are some shortcuts. In this case, several shortcuts. A over 1, that's already just A. Over here, square roots of 3's on top and bottom, cancel. So it's just A equals 3. Again, not really a need to cross multiply in this case. Now to find B. Again, 3 square roots of 3 is to the square root of 3 as B is to 2. You do have to be consistent. So I'm going first triangle to second triangle every time. And now this time we are going to cross multiply, but you can either reduce first and then cross multiply, or cross multiply then reduce. I would probably still recognize that the square root of 3's on top and bottom cancel. So go ahead and get rid of those. That leaves me with just simply 3 over 1 equals to B over 2. Now when I cross multiply, we get B equals 6. All right, now let me see here. Do I want to do it on this problem or next one? Let's do it on the next one. All right, number 3. Find x and y. Again, this is a 30-69 triangle. Again, it looks different. Doesn't matter how it is drawn. Draw your triangle to look just like the one that's given. Right angle in the bottom left, 60 degrees at the top, 30 degrees bottom right. Opposite the 30 is 1. Opposite the 60, square root of 3. Opposite the 90 is 2 for your standard 30-69 triangle. Again, we're looking for x and y here. Begin with the side that we know, which is 6. In this case, it's the left side. So 6 is to 1 as, and I'm going to do hypotenuse here. So x is to 2. So 6 is to 1 as x is to 2. And we are, in fact, going to cross multiply. Real quick and easy, though. X is 12. Now for the y's, again, I still start with 6 is to 1, but now the y's are on the bottom. So y is to the square root of 3. Cross multiply here as well. So y simply equals 6 square roots of 3. Now this problem lends itself the easiest to talk about the scale factors. If you are one who does the scale factors, you can do it with the other problems, but it all begins with the one opposite the 30-degree angle. That's kind of like your standard. And then the one opposite the 60-degree angle is the square root of 3 times whatever that is. So in this case, opposite the 30-degree angle was the 6. So the y happens to be the square root of 3 times that 6, which in fact is 6 square roots of 3. Now for this other one, again, starting with what's opposite the 30-degree angle, the hypotenuse is twice what is opposite the 30-degree angle. So what is opposite the 30-degree angle? If you double it, we find that x is 12. So that's what those scale factors do. So again, it's some quick math, and if you get it, then it's okay for you to take that shortcut. But I generally recommend you set up the proportions for the vast majority of you. No offense, man, it's just, it works every time. All right, that was 30, 60, 90 triangles. 45, 45, 90 triangles. But this is an isosceles triangle. Okay, what's opposite the 45s are going to be the same length. Again, because I know where I'm going with this, I'm going to choose what value we're going to use, and we're going to choose a value of 1. Goodness. Excuse me. Oh. Knock my glasses off and everything. All right. Now, how do we find the hypotenuse? Once again, Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. This time, the hypotenuse is what we're looking for. Both legs are 1. Take the square root of both sides. And we find that our hypotenuse here is the square root of 2. So now, this is your standard 45, 45, 90 triangle. 1, 1, square root of 2. Again, memorize it. In geometry, you might have seen it as x, x, x squared to 2. Okay. But we're going to do 1, 1, square root of 2. So number 4, find x and y here. We have a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So draw your standard 45, 45, 90 triangle to look exactly like the one that's given. So 1, 1, square root of 2. Now it's still just proportions. Again, you can do the scale factors, but I'm going to teach proportions. So, you know the hypotenuse here, 7 is to the square root of 2 as side, x is to 1. Now, in this case, the x over 1, again, there's no need for us to cross multiply. It's already solved. That's x. Now, the problem is the 7 over the square root of 2. That's basically the answer, but you're not allowed to have a radical in the denominator. So we got to fix it. So you do a square root of 2 to the bottom, and whatever you did to the bottom, you got to do to the top. So after we fix it, we get x is 7 squared root of 2 over 2. Now, what about y? Well, again, a little bit of a shortcut here. You could do the same work, but hopefully you are recognizing that the two legs are the same value. So if I already know what x is, I automatically know what y is. Y better also be 7 squared root of 2 over 2. I don't really need to set up the proportion to figure that out. And last one. Again, 45, 45, 90 triangle, but it's drawn weird. Does not matter how it is drawn. Opposite 145 is 1, opposite the other 45 is 1. The hypotenuse is the square root of 2. Now, in this case, looking for y and z. 3 and y are both the legs. They're the same thing. So I don't really need to do any work. I already know y is 3. Now, for the z, I am going to do a little bit of work. So I'm going to set up my proportion. 3 is to 1 as z is to the square root of 2. Make me work on my handwriting a little bit here. Cross multiply. And it's that simple. Okay, again, hopefully this was a review lesson for you. 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90 triangles. But it's definitely going to be day 1 next year in pre-calc. So it's something we want to make sure we understand and understand well.